is first and foremost, as you're looking at, understand your XYZ statement, right? And this helps with everything. Like I help X, this is your ideal client, to do Y, right? This is the service they do so they can have or they can achieve Z, right? The outcome. If someone actually go through and understand who they help, what they actually do as a service, and what the outcome is, I help X to achieve Y so they can have Z. This will actually help you across all different aspects because it allows someone to understand. It's kind of like your elevator pitch, but in a short, precise way, because now I can build out, targeting based on who I help. I know when I'm creating content, I know who I'm talking to.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Expert. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Joshua Lee. And today we're going to talk a lot about marketing and advertising, and that can be everything from social media marketing, online marketing in general, organic marketing. We might even get a little bit and shift gears a bit and talk a little bit about being a parent as an entrepreneur and work-life balance and how you might deal with divorce as an entrepreneur and whatnot. So we'll see where things take us. But that's another fun area that we'll hopefully hit on as well. So with that much as a introduction, welcome on the podcast, Josh.
Devin, man, always love to be here. We have such great conversations, and I doubt today will be anything but that, right? We're going to have a great conversation today. But yeah, hi, everyone. I'm Joshua Lee. Devin brought me on here based on some of my background. I've been, an entrepreneur for 20 years, very similar to Devin, multiple different startups in the 6, 7, and 8-figure range. Started my first business back in 2002. With clients like MySpace and Google and Yahoo. And, since then, I've probably monetized over $500 million in advertising and controlled over 35 trillion online impressions across my own servers. So, I've been in the traffic game, worked in the marketing and advertising. And these days, right now, I do a lot to really help with the organic side of marketing and really teaching people how to be able to really connect with their audience rather than actually sell it. So anyway, we want to jump in, man. We can do it today.
Awesome. Well, I think that's definitely a great introduction. I'm excited to have a great conversation. So yeah, with that, we'll talk a little bit about, marketing / advertising. I know that they are different, and depending on, what field you're in, you say, no, marketing is completely different than advertising, and advertisers are like, no, it's all part of marketing, and everybody gets a bit of a different answer. So even if I'll probably use the terms interchangeably, even though I do understand there's a bit of a difference or a big difference depending on who you ask. But with that, there's a few ones that we've talked or we hit on just talking a little bit before the podcast that you can jump into when you're looking at, I'll say, getting the word out there. In other words, marketing and advertising, what you're really trying to do is drive sales. You're trying to drive revenue. You're trying to get more customers, and you're really trying to get more sales to make more money for the business. So with that, there seems like there's a few different ones. You can do social media marketing, and that can be everything from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm sure there's about 20 other ones that I'm not hip enough to understand or know about. But then you also have just kind of generally online marketing, which I would put is probably more of PPC or pay-per-click, which is, Google AdWords. I think Bing is still out there, maybe.
They are, yeah.
I think it's still kind of hanging in, but or basically we're paying for clicks. And then you also have organic advertising, which can be everything from SEO to some organic posting and creating a following and community. So with that, there's a lot of different ones we could hit on, and we'll probably touch on a few. But if it seems like, and you can definitely, you're the experts to correct me where I'm wrong, but depending on your business, different ones may work better for your business. In other words, sometimes organic may work better than social media, depending on your business, or pay-per-click may work better than SEO, or different ones. So if you're a business and you're trying to figure out, let's say you're new to this and you have some early success, or you're getting the business up and going, and you're trying to figure out what is our marketing plan, or how do we tackle this? And there's so many different avenues I can go, and I don't have the bandwidth to do all of them. What are kind of some of the ideas or ways that you start to figure out which one you should initially focus on?
Yeah, well, Devin, it kind of starts with, when you look at marketing, and this is almost a different thing too, like marketing versus branding, right? So I think a lot of times people go in and go, well, I need to get to marketing. Well, if you haven't really fleshed out your brand and what you're doing and why you're doing it and what your end customer is getting out of it, right? Because this is the biggest thing I think most people look at is they sell on the service, not the outcome. And so that's where most people miss out, and they go, oh, I'm going to market, and they're marketing their service. Like, why am I spending all this advertising dollars and actually not getting a return? Because you didn't take the time, energy, and effort to really go in and understand what your brand is. And I think that's where I think a lot of people, we live in a world where, I mean, dude, I mean, I think you and I, when we both started our companies, like I didn't have access to these social media platforms like we do now, where I could do a post and I could get, 5,000 people or 500, whatever it might be, to respond and give me their inputs, because, everyone's got an opinion. So that's the beautiful thing that I think that most companies need to start when you're going in is, how do you test your market? Well, yes, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, depending on what kind of product you're offering, each platform works really well in different ways for you, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But use and leverage these, right? Go out there, post something. Hey, I've got X service and it gives this outcome. Would it be something you'd be interested in, right? Instead of just putting an ad out there, I think it's better to be, this is the way I've seen it, spent lots of money in advertising. I've actually monetized a lot for many other people. And these days, if you don't understand who your audience is, why you do it, and the brand behind it, I'm going to tell you, like, it's when you start advertising, and Devin, please weigh in at any point in time, man, it's how much money are you willing to spend or lose to understand what works. And I ask everyone that, right? Like, how much are you willing to spend or lose 5,000, 10,000 if you're going to go straight into advertising, if you don't know how your market actually responds? So that's where the kind of, you can play along with the social and get some free opportunity to understand, and then move to marketing.
No, and I think it's a hard question, because if you were to ask me that, I'd say, I want to lose as little as possible. In other words, I don't know what I need to lose, because it's a hard one. If I were to go and spend $5,000 and, I'll initially lose the 5,000, but we use that 5,000, or we gain experience and understanding.
Correct.
And after that, it takes off, then sure, I'll lose 5,000 and then I'll make 100,000. That's right. Great, great trade-off. But on the other hand, I lose 5,000, I don't learn anything, and it's just sunk cost. Then I'm going to say, well, I don't know if I want to just lose $5,000 for the fun of it. So, yeah. But I do agree. I think that, doing a little bit of figuring out where your customer lies or where they're at is going to be beneficial. And it seems like, a lot of times you can start to take baby steps, and you don't have to go out and have the $100,000 marketing budget to say social media, at least early indications, may not work for us. You may say, hey, we'll try a little bit of pay-per-click. We'll try a little bit. Now you have to give it enough wherewithal. You can't go do it for a couple of days and say, hey, we didn't make, we're not the drop ship company that we did Facebook ads for 2 days and we didn't make money, so we're going to close down and go away. That's probably not going to work. But so now let's just dive in a bit to each of them. So we'll go with the one that's I like the most, but I think it's also the hardest, and I think businesses struggle the most. And I know it's not in order, which is organic advertising, which I'd say is, you can say posting is one, and you can also say SEO is one. And so let's go with let's go with SEO just for the fun of it. But you have SEO, which is, for those who are listening, search engine optimization. It basically tells you if you do a good job, you rank higher on Google, or maybe Bing. If anybody uses Bing, I'll pick on Bing just because I don't know of anybody that's actually used it. But you go with Google and you say, okay, I'm searching for this term, and whoever pops up at the top, that's because it's not only just relevant, but they also do a good job of within Google's algorithms of getting themselves to the top. But in my mind, it seems like it's a longer lift, or at least that's kind of the general thing. It's not going to be an overnight, hey, I'm going to write a wonderful, amazing, the best article in the world, and next week I'm going to have everybody reading that article, and I'm going to have tons of traffic because I put a bunch of time. And so how do you, as a business, if you're saying, I think SEO is important, I think it's something that we should do long term, but in the short term, it may not have as quick of a turnaround or have that return on investment. First of all, is that accurate? And then second of all, how do you weigh that against the other avenues that may be a little bit more instant gratification or a quicker turnaround?
I think we all have to play the SEO game to some extent, but the biggest thing is you're always playing against the algorithm, right? I mean, like SEO is a long tail play, right? I mean, like if you're just looking for short term to make money, well, you're always going to have to continue to reinvent if you're just trying to make that short, quick gains. So SEO is the long play. And I mean, look, I've been doing it in this business long enough to be able to understand that actually I want to be able to play the long game, because it allows like guys like you and I and people listening to be in the industry longer than just to be able to take up, oh, this is hot right now, let me put some money behind it. And then, and you're looking for the next trick or, to be able to jump on. So one way that we've actually used SEO, and we work with our clients too, Devin, is SEOs takes look, to be able to get rankings, you're going to spend anywhere from potentially $2,000 to $10,000, depending on the company, to be able to kind of come in there and be able to rank it. It'll probably take up to 6 months sometimes to really get in there. Now, a trick that we've found is using LinkedIn. So most people don't realize that LinkedIn is very highly SEO optimized and indexed by Google. So prior to this, we've all seen when you search for someone, I guarantee you, if everyone here goes on Google right now and searches Devin Miller, I bet you 10 to 1 that his profile on LinkedIn is probably going to be one of the first posts that come up. It just happens that way, and because of LinkedIn indexing that aspect of your profile, and when you actually go through, now they used to also, Devin, index articles. So that the beautiful thing about LinkedIn is the Moz score, M-O-Z. And if you don't know this is just kind of not you, Devin, specifically, but people listening. This is how Google kind of ranks the SEO abilities 0 to 100. And LinkedIn is actually 100 out of 100 on the Moz score. So you can take your exact same blog that you have on your own website and actually take that on LinkedIn. And it'll actually, because of LinkedIn and the partnerships that they have there, it will actually rank higher in Google. So now you're not only getting the organic visibility on a platform like LinkedIn, but you're also getting on that one platform we all care about, which is Google. So, and a huge shift they just did in the last couple of months, Devin, is now they're actually indexing your posts. So everything that you're doing on a platform like LinkedIn, you're getting that double dip. And I mean, this is what we want to play, the short-term games of the instant people that are seeing it on social. And I'm playing the long tail game because I'm getting everything indexed on Google. So that's kind of how we play SEO. And it works really, really well if you're really paying attention to leverage. Like it's the same thing, right? Like Pinterest is indexed by Google. So it's a great way to be able to take those same articles, pin them on Pinterest. YouTube is another search engine. So you've got to be able to understand what other search engines are out there that also index on Google, and you can get multiple facets of opportunity.
No, and I think that's some great takeaway. I like how, we've done a ton to repurpose a lot of our content on LinkedIn just for that very fact of, hey, it gives you a bit of, what was interesting is we'd have articles I wrote originally on LinkedIn, and then we ended up putting it before, or even this is before we really got our website up and going. I was putting content on LinkedIn, and I was working with other law firms, and before I got my own law firm up and going, and some of that content still outranks us. That you'll search it and it'll come up, and it will still be on LinkedIn first. Now, I did, while you were talking, I did go and Google myself on LinkedIn, or Google myself to see where it popped up, and I don't get #1 ranking for anything with my name, but I am ranked #2, and it is my LinkedIn profile, and #3 ranking is the website. So LinkedIn beats me by 1 position, so I'll have to see what I can do to work on that. But no, I think that's a good point. Now, one question with SEO, and it comes up, and I've had the question and thought about it and kind of go both ways, is, to your point, there is always an evolving algorithm. If you're to go back long enough with Google, from my understanding, again, I'm not an expert, but I play one on a podcast, which is, it used to be, if you had so many backlinks, and if you had a whole bunch of backlinks, then you would be ranked higher because backlinks indicated that a lot of people were linking to as experts. Well, they found that people were gaming the system. They were, making
I can go on like Fiverr and get a whole bunch of backlinks.
Yeah. So now that's, you can still go on Fiverr and get a whole bunch of backlinks. It just isn't worth the $5 you pay for it. But, and they continue to shift her, and I know I don't keep up to speed nearly as much. But the question that kind of comes up is, should we more focus on building your content based on the current algorithm, or should you be more building good content, which will always be what Google's trying to find out? In other words, I'll give you a couple examples. Let's say I write really great SEO optimized articles that don't really provide a lot of value, but have a lot of the keywords and a lot of things that are going to be hitting on what I want SEO to rank me for. Or I can do, a great article that is really, informative, is helpful if people were to find it. It might have video content, it might have written content, it's very interactive. In other words, when people hit on it, they're going to think it's a really great article. They're going to dwell on it longer, read it longer, but it may not be as SEO optimized, or it may not be the focus, which is kind of if you're taking a long-term strategy, should you kind of do the content or geared towards the algorithm, or should you do it, hey, we're going to make long-term content and we think that our Google will always find it?
I mean, that makes sense? Devin, 100%, man. I mean, this is the whole thing. And if you're always trying to game the system, you're always going to try and game you're always trying to move towards what the algorithm is going. The algorithm for these platforms change constantly. They're trying to beat the people that game the system. If I find an article that's super SEO optimized and it doesn't add any value, that's great, but it's really not doing anything. The one algorithm that I think that truly matters more than all others is the human algorithm. And that's the one that just adjusts over time, but it doesn't change. Like the human algorithm has been within us and how we actually connect and relate to other human beings so much more in the value. So 100%, man, if I was going to be able to go in and tell someone, hey, if you're going to take the time, energy, and effort, go in. You want to build that know, like, and trust. And if I go to your article and it's just SEO optimized and gives me no value, that doesn't build know, like, and trust at all. It might give me the no because I see your name, but now I know you don't add value to me for anything that you're doing. So 100% go through, always add value, because if you continue to constantly do that, you will show up and it will result. Because what we want to be able to do is when you do that, you build advocates of your platform, and an advocate is so much more powerful because it's someone that like Devin, him and I have connected here a long time. And like, you read something I wrote and you potentially share it. I want to be able to have that in that algorithm more so than just showing up and pay to play, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you can't try and do both. You can do really
you
good
can,
content
of course,
that's still SEO optimized. But I think that, the point, and I think you hit it on a bunch better than I would, is that, playing that long game of, hey, this is going to be content that people are going to resonate. That's always going to, I think, in the long term, play well with the algorithm. They're going to look at dwell time. They're going to look at how long you share it. They're going to look at whether people are actually enjoying it, whether or not you're getting reviews for it, or whether or not it's getting posted or commented on, all of which I think to a degree impact the algorithm. And even as they make those shifts, if all you're doing is trying to play the game, at some point they're going to figure out you're playing the game rather than creating good content. You're going to get caught, and it's
exactly
going to significantly or hamper what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, Devin, dude, I have an article I wrote on Medium. I have a few actually. I wrote on Medium 10 years ago on the first platform. I still, on a weekly basis, get anywhere from 15 to 20 reads on these articles. And I mean, that's it. They weren't nothing to do with SEO optimization. It was truly about how do I actually give value, and like to be able to have something that's lived that long and continue week after week, be able to get that. That's just because I gave value each and every time.
No, I think that's a great takeaway. So now let's shift gears just a little bit. So we've hit a bit on that. All of these topics could be something that I'm sure we could go on for much longer.
Oh yeah.
But to kind of give a bit of an overview. So now I go to online advertising versus social media. And I know that there's kind of an ongoing battle. Some people are much in the social media camp of, hey, you're going to be reaching better audiences, or maybe it's less expensive, or maybe you can better target, or, the same thing you can make the arguments for pay-per-click, or for Google searches is, oh, this is more targeted, they're higher intent. And it seems like, depending on where you specialize, and, if you specialize in both and you're saying, hey, they're both good avenues, but you also have people that are just social media or just Google, and it is becoming more specialized, and it's harder to be an expert in both unless you spend a lot of time on it. But how do you kind of decide, should I do the social media? If I had to choose one, social media, do the outreach, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, I don't know, there's 20 others. Or you do, maybe you do the new Truth Social with Trump. I don't know. I don't even know anything about that other than I saw it on an article. Or you do more of the high intent, people are searching for you. What are the trade-offs? What should you be considering when you're looking at between those two? As to how you should start to tackle them.
It's time versus money, right? I mean, this is really how you do it. If you have enough time to be able to invest in, I mean, the best way to be able to go about it is to be using social media and being able to really be able to garnish an audience that continues to be able to come time after time. Because as you continue to be able to grow, you'll be able to grow that audience, grow that opportunity, and be able to connect. But you can't just put posts out there. You've got to be able to put posts and then engage with people that engage with you and be able to start conversations. So like I said, it takes a lot of time. Now, if you've got enough money to be able to invest in, if you want to be able to move faster, 100%, you can be able to put it into advertising. You can be able to go in, but it's not like back in the day. When I first started, Devin, I mean, look, man, we were buying clicks at tenths of a penny, right? I mean, that doesn't happen. And it actually converted into good traffic. Now, I mean, you go on platforms like LinkedIn on advertising. I mean, you're looking at a minimum CPC, to be able to go in at anywhere from $5 and up. Facebook these days, I think averages are anywhere from $2 to $3. I mean, they've constantly going up. I mean, I've talked to friends now in the season we're in, and I mean, they're seeing double what it costs to be able to convert into a client than it used to. So that's the whole piece, right? And every single person has to, I wish I could be like, you know what, this is the end all, this is exactly what you have to do, but each and every person is different and their business is different. So I would say it's a combination of both, right? You can't lose one for the other, but it's really, if you have time, take the time. If you know how to be able to connect with your audience, you're going to be real, raw, and connect. Social media and the power behind it is amazing. But what people are looking for is real and raw, not overproduced. If they think that you're actually on there doing a commercial, you're talking about yourself, you're like, oh, there's Josh again. That dude never shuts up about LinkedIn. That's exhausting. No one wants to hear that all day. So you have to be able to allow that connection opportunity. But if you have the money aspect, you can go through, like you said, on Facebook, you can do $10 a day tests, be able to understand, run multiple different campaigns and really be able to figure out where your audience is, then build retargeting. But the average person, you're competing against everyone that's been doing that for so long. So it does cost a lot more to be able to get that visibility that's in there.
So now I'll ask one more question, then we're going to shift gears. I'd like to at least touch on a little bit of parenting and work-life balance, but on the social media aspect. So I know we're jumping between a few of them, but now let's focus in on social media. One of the other questions I think often comes up, and I know all of these are, you can do all of them. And if you had unlimited time, money, and budget, you probably should do all of them. But, oftentimes you're working as a startup or small business is trade-offs.
Yeah.
I don't have an unlimited budget. I don't have an unlimited time, and I have to start doing something. And I know I should be doing everything, but I can't do everything. So now when we go to social media, there's a couple ways that you can attack it. You can do what I'll call organic, and maybe that's the wrong term, but where you're doing posting and you're sharing content and you're just going on and being active on social media. You don't have to pay for any of that unless you're having a social media manager, but you're not paying advertising. You're not paying Facebook or the different social media platforms to put your content on there, versus you can go and just do straight advertising. You can do targeted ads. And how do you weigh those, or how do you balance, or how do you decide, hey, should I start out just building the organic audience or providing great content, or should I start doing ads? And if you had to choose one, how would you choose one of those two?
If I had to choose one and being able to go through right now, I mean, like we've made a big shift. I work with, a lot of, startups and, and through our courses and training, and being able to teach them how to be able to go in and be able to leverage, because the biggest thing is, Devin, you can't go out there, especially on social media, and put out a post and go, okay, look up towards the sky, go, they're going to come. Here comes, here come my clients. That doesn't happen. You have to be able to post and then engage on other people. It takes a lot of time to be able to go through that. So me personally, when we actually train our clients, we train them how to be able to post, how to, we use LinkedIn specifically, and how to be able to draw on that audience, be able to engage with the people and start a conversation, because all the magic in social media really happens in the DMs, the direct messaging. And so being able to connect with the people that engage in your content, following up with them, asking them questions, and building that conversation, that relationship. Same thing with someone looks at your profile, or identifying your ideal audience and engaging on their content. That's really a true social media play if you're going to do the organic side. So that's what we really bet on. Now, if you're trying to just sell a project, let's say it is, Devin, let's say it's, you're selling a product, like a true on, like under $100 product, because this is where I'm going to tell you, go the advertising route, right? Because I think you can really be able to pull it up a lot faster. Most of our clients have products or services that range anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 and up. So they're a high-end product. Doing advertising, dropping someone into a funnel on a high level doesn't work as well, because we know most of us understand automation. We kind of pull out of it really quickly. But on a smaller product, if you're selling a whole bunch of it, let's say sunglasses, whatever it might be, I think the way to be able to go is the advertising way, because you can be able to identify your audience, be able to go in based on what they know, and then be able to use retargeting to be able to get directly to them for your product or service.
I think that's some great advice and some great takeaways. So
yeah.
Now, with that, shifting gears just a bit, and one of the other things that we chatted before the podcast, which I thought was a fun point, and I think it's one that is, it's different from advertise, different from marketing, what we've hit on, but definitely something that everybody gets hit with is, how do you do work-life balance? How do you, deal with if you are going or either heading towards a divorce or gone through a divorce, and how do you deal with parenting, and all of those things kind of intermix, because, it's a contrary to what you might see on television or the movies. just because you're successful at work doesn't mean you're successful in the family. Just because you're successful in the family doesn't mean you're successful at work, but they do have an interplay and they do have an impact. If you're working all the time, your family usually suffers. If you're at home all the time, having a great time with, like in the movies, when they seem to work about 1 hour a week, you can have a great family life and yet your finances and your business are going to suffer. So give us a little bit of thought or impact. How do you find that work-life balance and how do you deal with those things?
Yeah. And I mean, I think the biggest issue that most people see is that work-life balance is such a heavy word. Balance is so hard and it's almost impossible to achieve, right? We have to be able to look at more integration. How do we integrate the different aspects of our life? And this is something that I went through. I mean, like when I quote unquote was pushing towards work-life balance, Devin. I mean, this is back in the day. Yes, I was running 10 different companies, but I was 45 pounds overweight. My relationships were monetary and I had no vision about where I was going. I just knew where I was at. Everything was work or play. And I mean, it was really unbalanced in that aspect. And I was miserable. And I really had to kind of reset in my life and be able to go through and really take a step back because, outside looking in, the perception was, oh, Josh had a lot of money, the wife, the kids, everything, the house, all that stuff. And, it was great, but I wasn't happy because it wasn't actually being fulfilling and I wasn't integrating the different aspects that I needed to be first for myself. And this is where I think a lot of people need to understand to be able to be a good father, to be able to be a good husband, to be a good partner, business, all of that, just a good human being. If you don't give to yourself first and be able to make sure, like, how do you wake up, right? So those were a lot of things that I had to be able to shift was, how do I give myself that energy to be able to fill my cup first? And so I could actually fill others, right? And be able to go through in every aspect. As entrepreneurs, we put ourselves in these silos and we're always giving and doing and trying to take on everything. And, it's kind of like Atlas pushing the boulder uphill and our cup gets empty. And so if our cup is empty, we can't fill anyone else's cup. And then we just kind of continue to be able to go through, or our cup is too full because we're taking on too much. So these are the different things that I had to figure out, Devin. And I mean, look, I did. I had to go through divorce, and it was where we were at. What kind of situation? I wish I could have been able to figure out a better solution, but that was the solution that was best for myself and my former, and for my kids. And when I reset that and started going through, it's kind of where I wrote the book Balances, BS, because we have to be able to shift that. And look, I want my kids to be able to be proud of who I am, not just how much money I make, but how I am as a human being. And as entrepreneurs, we have the ability to be able to shift and change this world more so than anyone else. And if we burn out, as we're seeing more and more millennials and younger individuals trying to really be burned out, we're not going to be able to make these shifts. So first, it comes with some of the guys like you and I who've been doing this for a long time, sharing how we've fallen and how we've gotten back up again.
No, and I think that there's a lot of truth to it. What is hard, and I think that, cross my fingers, I have not had to go through a divorce and hopefully never have to, but I think that a lot of times, I know earlier on in my career, the balance was certainly over to I'm working a ton of hours, getting experience, being successful. And it wasn't with the intent of, hey, I want to shaft my family. It was just, hey, I've got a lot of things to do and I've got to get them done. And I only have so many hours in the day. And I'll get caught up on this one thing. And then next month I'll spend more time, or next week or tomorrow or whatever, I'll spend more time with the family. And it's easy to get out of balance. And I think just like we almost talked about with, you have to balance a lot of times marketing and sales and what you're taking on and what you're going to do and trying things out. You also need to have that, hey, I'm going to have balance with my family, that I have to have a variety of not just work in my life and not just family in my life, but I have to balance that. Yeah. I think that, once you gain that, is interesting, at least for me personally, I found that when you get that balance in work and in family, both are more successful and do better. If you can 100%. If you could spend 20 hours a day on the business and, only sleep and never have any time with the family, or you could have a better work-life balance. And your work-life balance, when you have that right, you're going to have the less amount of time you're going to be spending at work is going to be more productive. You're going to get more done, and you're going to be happier all in the process. So I think it's definitely worthwhile to pursue. Well, as we start to wrap up, and there's a whole bunch of more things that we could hit on that we'll have to chat sometime down the road on. But if people are wanting to reach out to you, or before they were wanting to reach out to you, and I almost jumped ahead over the last question, so shame on me. Before we get to how people will reach out to you, always have one question at the end of each podcast, which is, we've talked a lot of things. We've talked about SEO and organic advertising, online, pay-per-click, social media. We talked about work-life balance and all of the various aspects that people are considering with the business. And, way too many things to get started on today. So if you say, hey, for those startups or those small business out there, if they can only have one takeaway, one thing that they can get started on today, what would that one thing be?
The one thing that I would push anyone as you're starting out your business is, first and foremost, as you're looking at, understand your XYZ statement, right? And this helps with everything. Like, I help X, this is your ideal client, to do Y, right? This is the service they do so they can have or they can achieve Z, right? The outcome. If someone actually go through and understand who they help, what they actually do as a service, and what the outcome is, I help X to achieve Y so they can have Z. This will actually help you across all different aspects because it allows someone to understand. It's kind of like your elevator pitch, but in a short, precise way, because now I can build out, targeting based on who I help. I know when I'm creating content, I know who I'm talking to. One, I know the service and allow someone else to understand what I do, but that's not always the biggest thing, right? It's the outcome of what you do. This is the biggest thing that most people miss out on. And when you can figure these things out, you can build marketing plans, you can do advertising, you can actually build out the content. And it gives you the framework that you need to be able to build out that business and be able to allow your message to be able to be received by everyone you're trying to attract.
No, I think that is a great takeaway and definitely something that people can get started on. Now, as we wrap up, and as if people want to reach out to you, if they want to, be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Devin, of course, you can always find us at standoutauthority.com. But I mean, even better, man, I love when I'm on a podcast with someone like yourself. LinkedIn is my power platform. You can find me, Joshua B. Lee, on there, and, reach out, send me a message. Tell me why you listen to Devin Miller all the time. So that gives me a reason why I can reach back up to Devin and go, hey, dude, look at all these amazing messages I got about all your listeners that reached out to me. So that's always what I love to be able to do, because it not only allows me to build a relationship with them, but it also lets me build a better relationship with you as well.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, connect, and leverage the expertise and make those connections that can help grow your business. Well, thank you again, Joshua, for coming on the podcast. It's been it's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you that are listeners out there, make sure to subscribe, make sure to share the podcast, and make sure to leave us a review, because we want to really make sure that we can share this expertise and this knowledge with as many startups and small businesses as are out there, because our mission is really to help startups and small businesses any way we can, including with patents and trademarks. So if you ever need help with patents and trademarks, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. Thank you again, Joshua, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Appreciate it.